to today's webinar, From Awkward to Awesome, using Cloverleaf for one-on-ones and tough conversations. So we're going to get started, and I'll share with you a little bit about what we are going to talk about today. So we're going to share, we shared our resource in the resource in the chat. And if you need to grab that, you can grab that. The resource is right here. There is more information in this resource for you to take with you. It's really a guide for you to use Cloverleaf for one-on-one conversations. We will cover some of it high level, and then there's actually extra exercises in this for you as well to take with you. So feel free to use this and follow along with some of these exercises. I'll refer to this along the way. Again, if you have support issues with your account, you're going to handle those through support in your account. And this is where you reach support right here. If you click on this, you can actually ask questions and you can reach support, and we'll take care of those after the webinar. We also will ask you a quick poll right after this. We also going to share with you some new Cloverleaf training opportunities for managers, teams, and talent leaders. And we're going to ask you a poll also to see your interest in some of those. We have some new training opportunities coming up in 2025. So we're going to talk about, first of all, designing tough conversation openers. Sometimes it's just hard to start those tough conversations. And we're going to help you do that with the cognitive function pairs of 16 types on your team dashboard. Then we're going to give you an Enneagram coaching guide, and we're going to use the thinking styles comparison for tough conversations. And so that's a self-coaching guide. So you're going to be able to look at the thinking styles comparison on Enneagram. And if you don't have Enneagram, you can also adapt that to some other assessments using the thinking styles comparison. Then I'm going to give you an insight search guide from both a manager and an individual contributor perspective for one-on-one tough conversation. So what that looks like is if you're a manager preparing for a tough conversation, or you're an individual contributor preparing for a one-on-one or tough conversation. I'm going to share with you some specific scenarios of ways you can use insight search to prepare for those conversations. Then Jason and I are actually going to do a little bit of a coaching case study role play. And I'm going to be the manager. Jason's going to be the individual contributor. We're going to do a little coaching conversation. So part of what I do is I teach coaching skills to managers. So we're going to do some coaching back and forth, but we actually used Cloverleaf to actually prepare for the role play. And then we're going to share with you what features we used Cloverleaf to prepare for that conversation. So we'll debrief, how did we actually use Cloverleaf about each other to prepare for how we would interact with that conversation. Then we're going to allow you to give us feedback and provide suggestions for the next webinar. So how we came up with this webinar is what you said in the last webinar. So we use your feedback, and then Jason and I sit with it, we analyze it, and then we come up with what the next webinar is going to be. So if you want to weigh in on some of those topics for future webinars, you can do that. We also have a brand new feature of Cloverleaf activities in the application. So we're going to invite Peggy Mariner to come on, and she is going to share with you about that new feature. And it's ways you can actually use activities in Cloverleaf with your teams, and you can do that. And that's going to be available to people very shortly. And so we're going to share that new feature with you. And then we'll share with you when the next webinar is going to be. And then you can ask questions as well. You can also ask questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to you as soon as possible. All right, polls. Our first poll, we just want to know a little bit about you and your role. So Jason, if you would launch that first poll, tell us about you. Let us know what best describes your role. Are you a senior or C-suite talent or learning leader? Are you a director or manager level talent or learning leader? Are you a manager of a team? Are you an individual contributor, or are you a coach or a consultant? So let us know. Tell us about yourself. Let us know who you are. Just tell us your role. Who are you? You're a manager for a team. Tell us if you are a senior or C-suite talent learning leader, you're a director or manager level, talent learning leader, manager of a team, you're an individual contributor. or a coach or a consultant? Let us know. Answer that poll for us. Okay. More people want to answer for us. Great, awesome. All right. All right, I think we're good. We can end that. All right, so good. So we have pretty much a tie between managers and individual contributors with director and manager level talent learning leaders in second place. All right, great, excellent. All right, so next I want to share with you some new Cloverleaf training opportunities. These are things, if some of you may have participated in a survey that we did about Cloverleaf services that people have been asking for, and some of you weighed in on those. So we are going to be offering some new manager workshops and team development sessions. So some new things we're going to be offering for managers. Some new workshops. One of them is going to be all about manager as coach and how to build strengths-based teams. And this is really going to be all about how to really develop your teams using some coaching skills, but also using some of the data you see on your team dashboard. And so this is one of the topics we're going to be focusing on. The other topic we're going to be focusing on in a manager workshop is how to go from conflict to connection and how to really use Cloverleaf to build stronger teams, how to build trust, how to be able to look at some of the data on your team dashboard as a manager, and how to really build trust, how to break down silos, break down cliques. We're going to also be doing some more in-depth team workshops, a special team workshop, Thriving Together, Strategies for Self-Aware High-Impact Teams. So that's not just for managers, that's a team development session that we're going to be offering. So these are expert-led, live virtual 90-minute interactive sessions tailored for real-world team dynamics, the things that are actually affecting you and your team, right? And so they're going to be led by people in our organization that really want to serve your teams and really want to serve your managers to support you. They're going to include insights and strategies that you can actually leverage Cloverleaf's proven tools, assessments, strategies, dashboards, features to be able to develop your own skills as a manager or to develop your entire team's ability to interact and work together. It's also going to include actionable plans for managers to drive their team performance and also sustain a culture of growth, continuous growth. So that's the first thing, new manager workshops and team development. The next thing is, some of you may have participated. We did a cohort of implementing Cloverleaf in your organization. We just did the first public cohort this past fall. We're going to be doing another public cohort of that. It's for trainers, facilitators, coaches, consultants, HR business partners, or any leader that's accountable to lead and guide teams to use Cloverleaf in their organization. These people can be internal or external. It's a hybrid course. It's 4 90-minute live interactive workshops, and then there's 8 self-paced video modules. And in the course, in the program, you learn basically to lead individuals and teams to leverage Cloverleaf, right? You'll learn how to debrief a team dashboard and also lead Cloverleaf team development sessions. So this is our Train the Trainer program. This is how we train internal and external trainers how to lead people in using Cloverleaf. So this starts in February 2025. So we had 17 individuals that just took it in the fall, and we had some private cohorts as well with some of our larger organizations. So if you are interested in finding out more information about any of these things, and you're interested in finding out more about those things, we're going to put up a poll right now. All you have to do is check off the things that you are interested in, and you can actually check off more than one thing. So you don't have to pick one thing. You can select all of the things that you are interested in finding out more information about. So you can check off more than one thing. If you're interested in manager workshops and team development sessions, check off more than one thing. If you're interested in implementing Cloverleaf in your organization and Cloverleaf team development sessions, you can check off more than one thing. So just let us know, and that'll let us know that you're interested in finding out more information, and we'll get that information to you. These are going to be starting right away in 2025. So let us know that you're interested in those things, and we will make sure that the right information gets to you as soon as possible. And so we'll give you a minute to respond to that. Just select all the different things that you might be interested in. Yes, we're excited too, Casey. Hey, Casey, good to see you. Yes, hey, Brent, good to see you too. So excited. Awesome. Brent was just in our last cohort of implementing Cloverleaf in your organization. He was an awesome participant, so great. Awesome. All righty. Okay, so I think we can, and that I think we have a good, I think we're good with that. All righty, so let's dig in to our first step of creating these support for these conversation openers. So we all know that starting tough conversations is the first hurdle, right? We want to start these conversations right. Now I'm going to show my age here. There was a commercial from a really long time ago that says, you never have a second chance to make a first impression, right? It's a very long time ago. Some people might know the commercial that I'm talking about, and some of you might have absolutely no idea. But how we open that tough conversation, right, is really important. And so I'm going to be showing you how to design those tough conversation openers. So if you want to, and this is the other thing I want to invite you to do as we go along here, when preparing for difficult conversations of any kind, you have to be thinking about your audience. Who are you speaking to? So if you want to get real value today, I want to invite you to think about someone you either need to have a tough conversation with, or someone you wish you could have a bit of a do-over with. And then you could really apply everything we're going to be sharing today to either prepare for a tough conversation you have coming up, or perhaps maybe understand how you could revisit a tough conversation with someone. So one of my favorite hidden gems that I love to share about 16 types on the team dashboard. Now, again, if you do want to hop on to one of your team dashboards and you want to play along with us, you can absolutely do that, right? And that will kind of help you sort of apply some of what we're sharing. Is the cognitive function pair. It's magic. Watch this. You click on the cognitive function pair. And when you click on it, this little section of 16 types reveals itself. So the two middle letters of your 16 types results are the perception and the judgment function, right? So we're going to hop up here just for a minute, right? So the perception function is all about how you consume and process information, right? So people that are sensing take in information with all the five senses. They focus in on the details, right? The sensors are focusing in on the details, right? People that are more intuitive, those N's, they're focusing in more on patterns, more gut instincts. They're more abstract, right? That bigger picture, more forward looking, what's possible, right? And the judgment function, right, is those thinkers versus those feelings, how you make decisions, right? Are you leaning in more towards your head? Are you leaning in more towards your heart? So let's go back to those cognitive function pairs. So when you are having a tough conversation with people, it's important to think about how do they think, right? How do they perceive, right? How do they actually consume information? And then how do they actually decide on that information, right? I need to know that. So you want to think about which quadrant is the person in that you're having the tough conversation with, which quadrant are they in? And now I'm going to go back to my slides and I'm going to share with you. So if you are playing along in your own dashboard, find the person which you're having that tough conversation with. And you can actually click on, right, each of these people. You can click on each of these quadrants and you can find the person that you are working with. I'm going to hop back onto the slides for a minute and I'm going to share with you the openers, right? So let's talk about the ST first, right? So the ST is logical, practical, and they want to know details up front, right? So you can get to the point quicker. You don't have to make as much, small talk. So you might say something like, I want to take some time to discuss the project that is behind. I'll share my perspective first, and I want to get your take on things. So I'm telling the person right up front exactly what I want to talk about, right? Because I'm talking to a sensor thinker, right? Now I'm going to talk to the NT, the intuition thinking person. Now this pair is logical, but they're idea focused. They seek out the general idea of expectations, but you want to leave a little bit of room for a little bit of autonomy because they might want to design their own idea. They want to match a vision. Okay. They also might have a little bit of an attachment to how they might want to get things done. So you might want to lead off by expressing that you are wanting to explore or learn. So you might want to say something like, I'd like to understand your thinking on this project so that I can support you so that we can work together better. So you see how I'm wanting to learn, right? So you're starting off right away by expressing that. So now we're going to talk about this sensor feeler. Now the sensor feeler, these pairs people oriented. But they're also practical. They do want to know the details on the front end, but they're also harmony seekers, and the relationship matters to them. So I might say something because I value our working relationship, I'd like to discuss the project that's behind to see if we can come to a place of shared understanding, right? So now mentioning the relationship first, but I'm also telling them exactly what I want to talk about, okay? So I'm combining those things. Okay, so now the intuitive feeler, this pair is people-oriented. They're idea-focused. They want expectations, but they also want a little bit of autonomy. And they're also others-focused. Like they're very people-focused, so sometimes the details can drop out. Okay, now they're going to internalize what I say. So I might want to open with something like, I know you have a deep commitment to this project, and I really appreciate that. Can we discuss the timeline together so that you can continue to fill on your intention, right? So I'm focusing on their commitment, right? And I'm letting them know that I appreciate them, right? I'm letting them know that I appreciate their service, right? But I'm also letting them know I want to work together with them so that they can fulfill on what they're out to fulfill on, right? So again, all you really have to do is locate your person, understand a little bit more about them, and then design your opener. And in your resource, you have all of these openers right here. So you can start to plan and prepare your conversation. Any questions at all? Yes, this is 16 types at all as well. Yes, this is 16 types. Okay. Okay, so that's the first step, is you're planning your opener. Now, if you're having a tough conversation with someone, you want to understand, well, how is this person alike or different than me? So we're going to hop on to Enneagram. Now, if you, for some reason, do not use Enneagram in your organization, you can adapt this self-coaching guide to some of the other thinking styles comparison. But for right now, I'm hopping on to the thinking styles comparison right here. And I'm hopping on to someone that I am alike with, what happens to be Peggy, but that I am alike with, right? And I am pulling up Enneagram. So remember, you can pull up in the thinking styles comparison, you can pull up a specific assessment, right? So I'm pulling up Enneagram. Again, you can adapt this a little bit if you do not have Enneagram, right? So I'm going to hop back on to this little coaching guide here in a minute. Now, this is the high level coaching guide. If you're following along in the resource, in your own resource, right, there's a big helpful coaching guide right here. This is your self-coaching guide. And this is like, if you're going to spend 10, 15 minutes to help prepare yourself, all you're going to do is bring up the actual thinking style comparison. And then you're going to use this as a self-coaching guide. That's all you're going to do, right? So you're going to bring that up and you're going to kind of ask yourself a couple of questions, right? So you're going to first just sort of review the whole thing, right? You're going to read through the entire piece here, right? Read through this whole narrative, right? About myself and Peggy. We happen to be alike, right? So I'm going to read through this entire thing, and I'm going to read through the entire piece about how me and this person can resolve conflict, right? And as you know, when we talk about Enneagram, first of all, It's not just about defining personality types. Enneagram actually digs into how we think and process information and handle challenges. And Cloverleaf's Enneagram thinking style comparison tool helps you really uncover insights into how you and someone else might approach a situation differently. All tough conversations, become easier when we understand how me and someone else might be the same or might be different. Okay. Now, again, if you don't have Enneagram, you can try to modify this guide a little bit with other assessments. It might not match up exactly, but you can make the best of it and observe similarities and differences. So this is kind of like getting a little bit of a roadmap for navigating those tough one-on-one conversations with clarity and empathy. And that's what Enneagram helps a little bit with. It's a little bit of a roadmap for empathy. And keep in mind that someone you might be planning on having a challenging conversation with, or someone you might again, want to have a do-over with. Keep thinking about that person. And if you're logged into Cloverleaf, you can also bring them up right now and compare them. So review the analysis, and you want to note your initial thoughts, right? Does my instinct align with what I know about the person I'm about to talk to? Could it be influenced by what I think rather than how they approach the situation, right? Consider if your approach to the conversation feels like it's going to be collaborative, or am I still stuck on what I think, right? So as you're reading it, like, what's your initial approach? The next thing you want to do, and again, if you're following along in the guide, I'm going to stay on here. If you want to follow on the resource, stay in the resource, but I'm going to stay on the visual. Look at the communication piece, right? So look at the communication piece. Are you similar, right? So in this instance, me and Peggy are similar. We're direct and we expect others to be. We say what's on our mind and we're spontaneous and lighthearted. So if you are the same, what approach could you use to leverage this, right? Now, what approach do you typically appreciate, right? If someone comes and talks to you, what do you usually appreciate? Guess what? That's what Peggy probably appreciates too, if you appreciate it, if you're the same, right? Think about when someone's handled a conversation with you, what resonated, right? How can you adapt that here? Now, if you're different, so I'm going to change the person for a minute. So I'm going to bring up Jason, right? Let's bring up Jason. Okay. So Jason is different. Our communication piece here is different. If your styles differ, what adjustments are needed to meet that person where they're at, right? So Jason is direct, no nonsense, right? So get to the point, right? So you want to reflect, what about their communication style might they value? How can I use what's different, right, to open the conversation effectively? What words might I choose, right? So now what can I value, right? So I might want to be spontaneous and lighthearted and tell a story. That would work with Peggy. It's not going to work with Jason, right? I might say, Jason, we got to deal with X. With Peggy, I might tell her a story about my day first because I'm spontaneous and lighthearted, right? Jason, that might not work, right? Now I want to look at sources of conflict, right? So review that other person's sources of conflict, right? What specific action or language should I avoid? Well, Jason's sources of conflict are tasks not being completed efficiently or effectively and lack of downtime, right? And being overly critical, right? So maybe I want to make sure that Jason has enough breaks or Jason has enough space, right? I'm certainly not going to walk in criticizing Jason because that could be a source of conflict, right? I'm not going to walk in with all my criticisms and all my checklist of my grievances, and not coming in list with my airing my grievances. That's not going to work, right? I have to find a new way to reframe those things, right? I might want to consider how some of even Jason's strengths, right? So I might want to look up here a little bit, right? Jason's very organized, logical, and wants to complete tasks before anything else. Oh, so I might want to affirm their strengths while addressing this issue. So Jason, I know that you're really good at organizing information. So I know you would be really a big help, in this situation where the team is behind in the project. So I want to leverage his strengths in this tough conversation. Next, you want to look at this conflict resolution advice. It says that Jason and I can resolve conflicts by being aware of each other's strengths and regularly checking in with the end goal. It's also helpful for us to talk about our differing approaches so that we're understood, right? So you really want to look at that and ask yourself, what actions or strategies, right, could we really use to resolve any kind of misunderstanding, right? And so, how can I use this to make sure that I can create partnership with this person that I'm trying to create partnership with, right? What adjustments can I make? Okay. Now, the last two steps of the guide that I have in your resource are not on the thinking styles comparison here, and I'm going to hop down to it. But after all this, you want to ask yourself, you also want to get into a mindset and preparation here as well, right? And you want to ask yourself, what do I need to adjust about my mindset? Am I judging somebody, right? How does understanding this person, influence my mindset going into the conversation? Am I prepared? Am I distracted? Right? Play out the conversation. What might they say? What might they not say? How will I measure success? What's the successful end game for me in the conversation? And then after the conversation, you also want to say what worked, what didn't work, how did it go, right? So this is just a way for you to prepare in the conversation that might give you some ability to customize the conversation. Going in cold to a tough conversation is a recipe for disaster, right? And Cloverleaf gives you a really easy way to just view this and ask yourself a few questions. And this entire guide is all right here. You can ask yourself these questions, you can pull up the thinking styles, and you can prepare yourself to walk into that conversation with confidence and with a little grace. Right? Any questions at all before we move into our next topic? Any questions?
I accidentally clicked one of the questions that I would answer live. So real quick, if you can't see the thinking styles, the assessments that roll into that are 16 types, Enneagram, DISC, and instinctive drives. And I also believe this, if you're an admin of your org, I can't address you because it's anonymous, but check your org configs features page and make sure that thinking styles is also toggled to on. I'll link a Help Center article here, but meant to type all this out, but thank you for letting me answer the question.
No problem. All right. All right, so we're now going to talk about insight search, and this is also this is on your dashboard, right? So we're going to hop in here, insight search. Okay, so we're going to take a manager and an individual perspective for one-on-one and tough conversations. So let's take a situation. A manager addresses a team member who's overanalyzing and missing deadlines. The manager wants to be able to provide feedback, but also wants to be able to support this person in actually setting some goals because they have to get their work done, right? So I don't want to just go in cold to this conversation. I actually want to do some search prompts. Like I want to actually prepare, right? So how can I give feedback, right? And I'm just going to use Jason here again, right? Because how can I give feedback to Jason? Right? Okay, so I'm going to just scroll through there, right? And I'm going to say, okay. Motivate Jason to engage with performance feedback by being open and succinct. So focus on what is needed to go forward rather than what is wrong. And identify 2 or 3 key priorities for the action, right? So I know instead of me saying, okay, you're over analyzing, I'm going to focus on what's possible, right? I'm going to focus on, okay, what does the future look like, right, with this project? What are some strategies we could use to get to this project, right? I'm not going to start with what's wrong, right? So this is helping me also shape how I'm going to give some of the feedback to Jason if Jason was over analyzing in this project, right? So that's one of the ways, right, that I could prepare for this particular situation. I'm just going to hold on one second. Okay. And your goal here is looking for ways, again, to craft additional conversation openers, understanding how the person relates to or processes feedback, right? I also might want to understand what motivates Jason to accomplish goals. So I could also understand what motivates Jason, right? I could go even and just ask, right? I can just leave his name in there and say, what motivates Jason, right? What gets Jason motivated to take action, right? Oh, he may inspire others in areas that he even feels passionate about, right? He brings positive energy and supports new ideas. So maybe I could talk to him about new ideas to actually execute on this project. Maybe that would infuse new energy into it, right? How can I acknowledge him? I want to make sure I acknowledge him because he's working really hard, right? And I don't want to make him feel like I don't appreciate his work, right? So how can I acknowledge Jason, right? Right? How can I acknowledge Jason? I want to make sure I do that in a way that makes him feel appreciated. All right, take time to acknowledge his praise of his achievements. All right, share confirmation when he successfully completed something he asked, right? Give him a subtle cue, right? So maybe I need to do more check-ins with Jason along the way. Maybe I haven't been checking in with him along the way for smaller completions, and maybe more benchmarks would help, right? Maybe I've been just sort of setting and forgetting it with him, right? So maybe I need to set that up with him, right? So again, the outcome here is that the manager is then going to use the insights to frame the conversation around measurable outcomes. And then I'm going to get some clarity in then how I can work with him to keep him motivated. And I want to make sure he feels appreciated for his contribution. He's doing work, right? It's just that maybe I need to help refocus him, right? Now, what if you're an individual contributor and you feel like your input is being overlooked in team discussions and you want to be able to assert yourself, but you also want to address your issue with the manager? Maybe you want to ask, how can I assertively express ideas without creating conflict, right? You can actually ask insight search things about yourself, right? So how can I assert myself without, sorry, right? How can I do that? How can I assert myself without creating conflict, right? Because again, we can think about these things in our head, right? And we can kind of go on and on and on, right? And so this is telling me, think about the outcome you want and how you might want to share that vision, but be mindful to get others' perspectives, right? So maybe I want to ask a question. Maybe I want to be more collaborative, right? So maybe I want to share something, but then pitch out. Maybe I want to say, hey, I was thinking XYZ. What do you think, Peggy? Right? So maybe I want to be more collaborative and not just make a statement, right? So that's a way I could maybe enter into a meeting, and say something like that, right? I just get an idea, right? But I also want to talk to my manager about this, right? So I might want to say, how can I ask for support from Mindy, right? I want to talk to my manager because I want to make sure I go to the next team meeting, right? So I may ask that information, right? And so it's saying, ask Mindy to help arrange people and related tasks in the team as Mindy likely sees necessary strengths in others. So maybe I can ask her, see, all the players, like, where can I make the most difference, right, in this team conversation? And maybe she'll have an idea of where I can make the biggest difference in the next team meeting, right? So now I can kind of frame my question to Mindy and how I can ask her for support, right? So again, the goal here is that I want to gain confidence and I want to communicate my ideas in a way that the team gets what they need, but I also want to get support from my leader, right? So you're going to notice in here, there is a number of different scenarios. We've given you additional scenarios here as well that we're not going to go over, but we've given you some scenarios as well that you can use for yourself that might be relevant to you. Okay. But now what Jason and I are going to do is we're going to do a little role play. So Jason is an individual contributor. This is a mock role play, and he has been with the team 6 months, and he's been great. He's been doing great work. He has a lot of potential. In this situation, I'm his manager, and I've been a really big advocate of his talent. But he needs a little bit more project management experience. And we have a scheduled one-on-one, and he's set the agenda. He's set and shared it with me. He wants to discuss his career growth, and he wants to find out how soon he can move into a management position. So we have both used Cloverleaf Insights and each other's dashboards to gain a deeper understanding of how we're going to plan for this conversation. And we want to make sure we have a productive conversation. So we're going to have a quick conversation, and then we're going to share with you how we used Cloverleaf to prepare for it. Okay. So Jason, go ahead. Get started.
All right. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for sitting down with me. Really appreciate the time. I wanted to start the conversation around my role and possibly expanding it, maybe like early next year. I know you have like a really strong commitment to serving others, and I want to help you with the projects and the tasks associated with getting the teams to these goals as finish lines. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit further with you today.
Awesome. Well, I really want to better understand your thinking on your own career development so that I can best support you in your vision. So share with me a little bit about what you're thinking.
Yeah, so I know I've only been here just a few months. I really enjoy all of the great learning content that we've been putting on, and I believe that I can help you fix and maintain some of the content and some of the projects aimed in those initiatives a little bit better. And I'm really passionate about it, and I really feel like that I can be there to help out.
That's awesome. And you've been doing an amazing job, with all the content creation. So what's sort of your timeline? Like when were you thinking of like moving forward?
Oh man. I know with the holidays coming up, probably not anytime soon, but hopefully sometime early next quarter, maybe like end
Mhm.
of January-ish.
Okay. So I want to, be straight with you and I want to share my thinking, right? So I think you've been doing an amazing job. I do think you may need a little bit more project management experience before moving into a leadership role. But I know we have that new project coming up at the end of January. And I do think it would be a great opportunity for you to possibly take lead on that. And that would give you a great opportunity to be communicating with others, coordinating tasks. Is that something that you think you might be interested in?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, good. And so what do you hope to be able to learn or grow in taking on that kind of accountability?
Um, so I really enjoy being in the day-to-day, completing the tasks,
Mhm.
checking things off my lists. Where I think and where I agree with you on this is really leaning into your larger strategy ideas and where you see things going beyond a project, where else we could get some life out of this project that we're doing, and kind of some of the strategy behind that. So I'd really love to lean into you for that.
Okay. And so what does that look like for you, like
Oh,
tangibly?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking big picture. So
Yeah.
I think, especially thinking about this project here in January, where I'd love your assistance is maybe just setting up like a weekly check-in, where I can talk about challenges and roadblocks, how to coordinate better, how to deal with, specific team members better, and just really
Okay.
getting some of that insight from you that I can then apply, as I'm working on this project and other projects.
Okay, good. That sounds great. So, and we can do that like as part of our one-on-one, but if you feel like you need like extra touch points, like I'm happy to support you with that and give you feedback. And I think if you take that on, and I think you could be ready like maybe by the end of Q2 or beginning of Q3, like it might get you to that manager readiness by then. Does that feel reasonable to you?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, I hope you feel like you've been heard in this conversation. And I really want to acknowledge you for everything you bring to the team. And I just really feel like it's going to be a great year.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to get started next year.
Awesome. Excellent. Great. All right. So Jason's going to share first what he did to prepare to talk to me. Okay. Jason.
Yeah, so in doing my prep for this, um, in kind of removing myself from having worked with Stephanie for almost a little more than 2 years now, this is what I got from Cloverleaf. So being open, being direct, so telling her, hey, I want this promotion, let's shoot for next year, trying to be real, truthful, and kind of complete in my thoughts, or as complete as I can be in my thoughts to her. I did tap into the cognitive function pair. I'm combining words. So I mentioned her deep commitment to serving others and how I can kind of play a role in that in this next project. I think I quoted this almost verbatim, but I tapped into her change coaching tips. So I was visiting her profile and going through the different categories of the coaching tips. I used the insight search as well for this if you're looking for something more specific. But I pulled this one out from the change category that I believe could have played a role in our conversation in terms of what I can bring to the table. And then same with communication. So trying to be direct and clear, trying to be, keeping it real, and trying to be my whole truthful self. And I tried to, get a little excited about it, but I didn't want to overplay my excitement because I think like Stephanie and I are alike in that to where like if you oversell me on the emotion, I'm probably going to tune it out. But I did want to at least tell Stephanie, hey, I am passionate about this. I am excited. So
Mm,
hopefully I treaded that line well.
yeah.
And then oh, this is still me.
Mhm.
So yeah, she advocated for my talents. She recognized, I'm really good at the tasks, getting things done, articulating why I'd be best suited for it, and then the last part here being, just for context for the audience, being that I'm still new to my role. I didn't have a lot of data. We didn't really get into that just for timing and all of that, but
Mm,
just so you have a better understanding of my character. I didn't have a lot of data to kind of support why, but just a lot of passion, essentially. So we came up with that plan that I think Stephanie will talk more about.
yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was great. And I think you handled it very accurately. I also was very straightforward, right? I used Insight Search for the whole thing. So I asked, what's the best way to communicate with Jason? And so this is the tip that I used. Try to make your message straightforward and certain. So I was very clear. And I was very intentional, right? I wanted to build partnership, but I also did not mince my words. I did use my cognitive function pair. I said, hey, I want to better understand your thinking. I want to support your vision. I did focus on strengths, right? I did rely on his enthusiasm. I did ask, how can I motivate and develop Jason? So that was the prompt I used. So everything you see in purple is what I used in the insight search box. Um, I knew that what he was going to ask me about, right? So I said, how can I give constructive feedback to Jason? So I did position the opportunity for next year as an opportunity for growth, right? This is an opportunity for you to grow, taking on this project. And then I wanted to make sure that I helped him set realistic goals. So I used, how can I support goal setting with Jason? And I made sure that I said, hey, what does this look like? I made sure that we got a very specific goal before, hey, we're going to have these weekly check-ins. He's asking me for mentoring. He's asking me to support him. So I made sure that we had specific goals set by the end of the conversation. Awesome. All right. So I am going to hand it over to Peggy. Jason is also going to put our feedback form in the chat. I know some of you sometimes have to go, so we're going to put our feedback form in the chat. But Peggy is going to share about activities. If you do want to share feedback about, especially if you want to suggest topics for our next webinar and you want to fill out that form, you can do that. Jason's going to share that in the chat, but I'm going to hand it over to Peggy. And then Peggy, please take it away. Peggy Murner. Peggy, please refresh my memory of your exact title because I don't want to mess it up. But Peggy is one of my most favorite humans ever. But Peggy, share your title.
Thank you guys so much for doing that. Steph and Jason, I thought you guys did such an excellent job of modeling that, of doing it like honestly, and also like connecting the dots for that. I think just thank you so much. You did such a great job. I'm Peggy Mariner. I am the Senior Applied Coaching Content Consultant here at Cloverleaf. So I take the personality science and I turn it into the coaching, and then I do team sessions to work with teams to see how that coaching is actually coming alive in their teams, if it's doing a good job. And the coming alive in teams is near and dear to my heart. I think all the work we do is to empower our users, our managers, our leaders, our individual contributors so that they can be the fullness of themselves in their work. And it might even be energizing for them that they could come to work, do hard, challenging things, and they are more excited about their life as a result of that. So I digress. What I meant to tell you about was our activity. So what you saw Jason and Stephanie doing today, talking through these conversations using Cloverleaf to inform them, is so powerful. And we heard you say as leaders that you don't always know what to do. You've got all these great insights, but what do I do next? And like today was our one-on-ones, we are going to be doing that with your whole team. We're hoping that these team activities are building stronger connections across your team, whether it's practicing trust building, creating a space for better communication, or you are learning as a group how to have crucial, meaningful conversations with each other that sometimes seem uncomfortable. These are designed to create some repetitions, so it's easier for you to operate in a more connected, high trust, high performance team environment. So for those on this call, we have those launching next week. So if you want to put a placeholder in your calendar, you can check those out this time next week. There is a caveat. Your organization does have to be engaged, have permissions for reporting teams where you can declare who your manager is or who your direct reports are. And or have dashboard builder where you can prototype teams and you can pick people that you want to see on a dashboard together. So if you have that in your organization, that the team activities are going to be available next week. I would love for you to try those out next week. You can do them with as little as 2 or 3 people, and you are able to start those up really intuitively. It's going to be your upper left-hand team dashboard corner. And I would love for you to leave us feedback about what you liked and what you would have changed about the experience. So we are excited, not just about those launching next week, but our January webinar is going to be about these activities that build your team. So in that session, we're going to talk through how to use those in a similar way we did the one-on-ones today. And we just want those activities to be as practical and easy to implement as possible. So we are equipping you to go increase the connection, the ability to solve difficult relational problems, and to take the temperature down. I saw one of the comments was, I can't even imagine this kind of conversation happening in my organization. When you start to build the repetition and the practice of having these conversations, they can become commonplace on your team. So next steps are to sign up for your January webinar and also set some time aside next week to check out the activities and try them out with your team. I've gotten feedback from one team that it was one of the highlights of their year practicing this inside of their team using Cloverleaf. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Stephanie, for giving me a moment to talk about that. I'm really excited to see this bring more life, more connection to teams that are inside of Cloverleaf.
Peggy, can you just repeat the functionality people